that firearms can teach life skills like responsibility, ethics, and citizenship. I want to get both of your reactions. Congresswoman, I'll start with you. What's your reaction to this?
I think it's ironic that on the one hand they are doing research on how to attract children to guns and yet want to prevent and have been successful in preventing the Congress and the CDC from researching gun violence prevention. So it reminds me a lot of the Joe Camel commercials and the efforts to try and encourage kids to smoke.
With the logic being, Dan, that the Second Amendment is not going anywhere and the right to bear arms exists, playing devil's advocate here, doesn't it make sense to try to educate our youth about the responsibility of using a firearm, the dangers of using a firearm?
Yeah, I mean, in a true way to educate young people about both the responsibility and the true dangers, that's not a bad thing. What is a bad thing is blatantly marketing these guns to young people. Basically, it exposes the true colors of the gun lobby. You know, they're not concerned, in the gun industry, they're not concerned about the prevention of gun violence. They're just concerned about selling more guns. You know, the rest of the American public wants to engage in a meaningful conversation about exactly what you're saying. What we can do, respectful of the Second Amendment right to own guns, respectful of the fact that hunting and target shooting and protection are deeply ingrained notions in, you know, in a lot of our country, but have that conversation simultaneous to the risks associated with having guns in the home and what we can do to prevent tragedies.
Sure, the tragedy that is most fresh on everyone's mind, Newtown. Right now there's a hearing underway in Connecticut about stopping gun violence, and some of the victims' families are testifying. Take a listen.
I'm never going to have my son back. I accepted what happened that day when it happened. I didn't like it. I couldn't change it. He wouldn't want me to sit around crying or feeling bad. I'm out trying to do something to help him and to help the other victims.
Neil's son was Jesse Lewis there. And this is a live image of the testimony that continues there. One thing also that I want to pass along is the fact that New York City Police Commissioner Ray Kelly appeared on the Sunday talk shows yesterday. He was asked about the assault weapons ban, and this is his answer, saying that they're not the big problem. Take a listen.
For us in New York City, and I believe in most urban centers throughout America, the problem really is concealable handguns. Only 2% of the people that we've arrested for guns in the last 2 years have had assault weapons.
So, Congresswoman, a lot of Republicans have jumped on that, being that they're coming after our guns. Obviously, Ray Kelly deals with a different type of situation in an urban city center as opposed to someone who lives in rural America. What do you think about his response?
Well, I think he's accurate, and it's very important that we do everything in our power to make sure that people have guns, keep them safe, and use them appropriately. I just had a gun buyback in San Mateo County last weekend. We collected, voluntary buyback, we collected 680 guns. Half of them were handguns. 24 of them were assault weapons. One was a street sweeper. One was a sawed-off shotgun with the serial numbers having been erased. So there are guns that should not be in circulation, and we should do everything in our power to get them out of circulation.
We're seeing video of that gun buyback, and it really is amazing as you point out the type of weapons that are floating out there, certainly the kind that are most scary with the serial numbers that are scratched off. But that's the reality in certain cities, certain places around the country. Dan, in an interview with the New Republic, President Obama said he understood where gun owners are coming from, saying that if you grew up and your dad gave you a hunting rifle when you were 10 and you went out and you spent the day with him and your uncle, and that became part of your family's traditions, you can see why you'd be pretty protective of that. It's trying to bridge those gaps, and I think that is going to be the part of the biggest task over the next several months. He went on to add that he does skeet shoot while at Camp David. So what is it that's so frightening to those people out there that support guns and gun ownership, that think that taking assault weapons and these military-style weapons is infringing from their rights?
Right. I mean, you know, it's basically people buying into the party line of the gun lobby. The reality is, when you look at sensible gun control measures, take assault weapons ban, for example, the overwhelming majority, not only of the American public, not only of gun owners, but of NRA NRA members are in favor of those measures. Those measures have nothing to do with taking away the Second Amendment right to bear arms. So, you know, what's happening is the conversation that's being projected out into popular culture is really just a conversation on the extremes. The overwhelming majority of the American public supports these solutions. The only place where it's really an evenly split partisan political debate is in the halls of Congress, and that's what we need to change. You know, the president at every turn has underscored his administration's deep belief and respect for the Second Amendment and for gun owners, and the interview that you were just quoting is yet another example of it. You know, we just need to, you know, educate the American public and inspire the American public to make their voice heard on the issue, because as the president said when he announced his administration's recommendations from the task force, you know, the only way we're going to create change is if the American public demands it, and it's up to us now.
Congresswoman, as Dan points out, it really is going to fall on your lap and everyone else's lap on the Hill to talk about this type of policy change needed in the country. But as we talk about immigration reform and gun control within the same breath and sentence, is there enough appetite in Washington, D.C. to provide the American people with comprehensive policy reform on both issues?
You know, Thomas, it's our job to do the people's work, and we should have the appetite, as you put it, to do both these issues because they're both front burner issues.
All right, I want to ask you both to stand by because we have some tape playback of the Vice President and President from their meeting today. Take a listen.
Law enforcement officials all across the country who obviously share our deep concern about issues of gun safety and how we can